Good evening and welcome to episode 178 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravets. We've got a very exciting night tonight. We've got live action going on all over the place. We've got a big Woodbine conversation for the Woodbine Mile and 4 graded stakes, including 3 win and you're in races coming up this Saturday that we're going to be previewing with an excellent guest. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Also, hit that notification bell. That'll tell you when new content will arise. We've got a lot of new content popping up all over the place. And also smash that thumbs up button. We'd really appreciate if you do that. That'll tell YouTube this is a great show. As we're getting closer and closer to the 1,500 subscriber mark. So please tell your friends, neighbors, horse racing fans to subscribe to the HHH Racing Podcast. Of course, you can, let me go back. You can follow me on Twitter at HKravets. Of course, my email at the bottom of the screen, hkravetshorse@gmail.com. You can see our next live show will, of course, be our regular shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This Tuesday will be 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be recapping this weekend's races. I'm working on a guest as we speak. Even my co-hosts don't even know who that guest might be. I'm very excited. Hopefully, we'll be able to get him. If not, we'll just be recapping these Woodbine races. Of course, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor. Please check that out. The Race Day blog, it's been red hot. We've talked about it many times on the show. Look below the video player for information on the Race Day blog tip sheet. The ROI is over $2.50. We've hit many pick 4s, 5s, and 6s on that Race Day blog tip sheet. And then, of course, we have a fantastic website created basically by one of our co-hosts, Pete Visco, hhhracingpodcast.com. Before we bring on our wonderful expert handicapper tonight, let's go ahead and bring on my fantastic co-hosts. From Maryland, we got Pete Visco, and from the Saratoga Special, Paul Halloran. Gentlemen, time for some Woodbine action. How are we doing?
Let's do it. Oh, Canada.
Oh, okay. I'll save that for later.
Please.
I do know. By the way, I do know all the words.
Well, that'll have to be sung later. I think that should be the end of the show, though.
Okay,
that's
let's
impressive.
do it.
Also, guys, I didn't mean to bury the lead, but of course you two know this, and we've mentioned it on Twitter and other places. Right now, going on, literally right now at Canterbury Park, is the BCBC Big Ten Challenge. It's one of the bigger qualifiers in the country for Jim Pillars. There you go, for the BCBC. Gentlemen, we'd like to see an updated leaderboard. I think you might see a name on that lead on the top of the leaderboard now, or towards the top. Now,
Where can we find it, Howard? Where is the leaderboard? Where is the leaderboard?
I have a link. I don't know if they really want people to
know what's going on. That's an interesting marketing strategy.
Well, I shouldn't say that.
That sounds like horse racing, Paul. That sounds like a horse racing idea right there.
No, I'd be happy to send it to you guys. I just don't know if it's something they usually want made public. I have no idea. But let me bring up right now. This is the current leaderboard as we speak. Now, before we bring this up, there are 85 entries, I believe, and no one else can enter. Let's see. It's through race 5 now. So, yeah, all the entries are done. No one else can enter at this point. There are 85 entries. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. I'll give everyone an update what's going on with me. There are 85 entries. You have to finish in the top 11, which is an unbelievable percent. It is a $3,000 buy-in, so it is quite pricey. But let me go and bring up the current leaderboard as we speak right now. Of course, all these races are going on at Canterbury Park. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Do we know that person in second, guys? I think we do.
One-timer, Matt Miller.
Matt Miller is in second right now. It's a little bit hard to see. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. There you go. Matt Miller made an all-in play. He actually had 2 entries. Again, you start with $2,000, everyone. So this bankroll, this is real money, guys. This is not like just fake points. This is actual real money. You start with $2,000. Matt is up to $5,480. In second place, is in a very comfortable spot. You know what's great about this, guys? How many people on this?
I was just going to say, you're burying the lead. You're burying the lead. Look at all our guests are on here.
Yeah, Frank Mustari's been on our show. He's in 6th right now. Dylan Donnelly is in 8th. Again, they qualify down to 11. You're saying, where's Howard Kravets? Well, I'm not that far away. I'm in 28th. However, let me just say this: I've only made one play, guys, so far. My stronger opinions are later in the card. So basically, as of now, guys, I only need to get up to 2,700, and I'm only in 1,900. So I'm not worried whatsoever. There's a long way to go. There's Marshall Graham, by the way. His second entry is in 32nd. Anyway, guys, there's a long way to go in the contest. I will be making one play during this broadcast, everyone. So it's not going to be right away. Again, I don't want to give away my plays specifically for obvious reasons, but I will say, guys, that one of my plays will be happening during the broadcast of this show. I'll just leave it with that. Last thing, before we bring on our wonderful guest, who I don't quite see on screen yet, so in the background. Guys, I want to show you one other quick video. I got another video to show you. Let me bring this up. Because we talked about Matt Miller being on a roll, right? So I'm going to bring up something real quick, guys, real quick. Okay, so this is the Sox game on Monday. Do you guys see anyone in the audience?
Yeah, I see Matt Miller. Right.
Wow, the Bob Uecker.
Where is he?
Look at that.
Look at this. Must be in the front row, right, Paul Hallard?
Wow.
With his
you keep picking
wife.
20-1 shots. You can afford those seats, Howard.
Yeah. Well, actually, off air, I'll tell you how he got those seats. It's sort of a funny story. Anyway, with his lovely wife, Beth. But anyway, there's Matt right there. Good seats, right? Not bad. Have either one of you guys ever sat like right along the first row of any baseball game, like along the dugout or anything?
Yeah, I've been on the dugout side, not behind home plate before.
I've never been there. So without getting into a lot of details, this is Eloy Jimenez. This game is from Monday. Apparently, Matt told me there's a microphone, right by the home plate. And he said to his wife sort of loudly, I think he's going to hit a home run. So what happens? Here we go. I'll show you. Now watch his reaction, by the way. It's classic. I think that was the same. Wait, you guys watch it again. They'll show a slow-mo. I think this was his reaction, Paul. He's right there. I think that's the same reaction that the one-timer won.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's awesome.
I thought you guys would get a little kick out of that. He can't lose right now. He's on a roll, Pete. What are you gonna do?
I mean, hey, everything he touches turns to gold. We got to keep riding him. He's got to start dropping some of these in the chat when he's on a little bit. He dropped one-timer. Let's get one every week now.
Absolutely. While we wait for Drew Coatney, guys, let me just quick.
Actually, can I mention one quick thing while we're waiting? So just for people, it's obviously too late now, but and this isn't a shameless plug or anything. It's not like they're a sponsor, but you can qualify for these kind of tournaments without ponying up the $3,000. You can go to horse tourneys. I was looking at one. There was actually a last minute one yesterday. It was like $40 to qualify for a feeder into. So you could do it for like $40. If you do well in that one, you get into a second one, and then that one pays you the $3,000 to get in. So if people want to get into these big tournaments, you don't have to pony up the big amount of money. You can try and qualify your way in case some of our viewers or listeners aren't familiar with that. You can go to horsetourneys.com or horseplayers.com and they have, qualifiers and feeders into all these big tournaments, including the BCBC, the NHC, and other big tournaments across the country. So check those out. I mean, if you're interested in trying out tournaments and in qualifying for some of these bigger ones like that Howard is in.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Guys, I have not heard from Drew yet. I do not see him. So I'm a little surprised that he's not in the background. But I think we'll go ahead and start anyway, guys, because I'm sure he'll be popping on any moment. Actually, you know what, Pete? Let me send him a quick text. And while you're doing that, Pete and Paul, if you guys could just for a minute here sort of talk about the Woodbine sequence in general, not specifics, and what you thought about it. Looks like Paul's moving somewhere else.
Paul's either in a haunted house all of a sudden, or so I could say quick while you do that. So I thought it was an interesting sequence, and I think we talked about this the other day. Really full fields, which is awesome. I mean, there was, I think, 1-7, maybe 1-8. But even that is a little high, but there were a couple of pretty big fields. Yeah, there were a couple of big favorites, but I think there's opportunities for prices along this sequence for sure. Yeah. And then it ends with sort of one of those most likely wide open optional claimer races where I feel like if you go into that one and you're maybe a few deep, you probably got a good shot to catch a price at that point.
All right, we are ready. Oh, okay. So Drew is just working on some audio, real quick. Drew, I'm sure you can hear us now, or I'm assuming you can. We see you. So we're just waiting for Drew to get his audio set up. While we're doing that, let me just talk about Drew Coatney, our guest tonight. He is the business manager of In the Money Media, and I have to give a lot of credit to Peter Thomas Forental at In the Money Media, who really helped me get started last year when they hired me to cover the Canterbury Park on their blog, and I covered Canterbury Park the entire meet. And I've been on several shows through In the Money Media in the last really year or so. So thanks to In the Money Media as well for sort of giving me the exposure that helped me as well move on. This Woodbine card, I agree, Pete. It's a great card. There's 3 winner-ins, and there are 4 stake races in this late pick 5 sequence. So including 2 two-year-old races that usually are on Sunday, but they moved them now to this Saturday card. And of course, the big headliner, we're going to talk about it, but might as well, why bury the lead? Modern Games, Pete, coming in for Charles Appleby, who, of course, shall we say, controversial Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf last year. He's had a really good year, and it's exciting to see Modern Games. We're assuming a prep for the Breeders' Cup in this race.
Yeah, you would think so. I actually uncovered a funny thing, which when I was looking through it, and I was going to mention it during the race, but it's weird that Appleby is run at Woodbine a handful of times, not a ton, but William Buick has never run on any of his horses here. So it'll be the first time for Buick on a Appleby horse at Woodbine, at least in the past 5 years, based on what I saw in Formulator. I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, Modern Games is he's the headliner, Breeders' Cup champion. Yeah. Unless you were not wagering champion, but but he was. Go ahead,
Drew. If you can hear us, give us a thumbs up if you're ready now. Okay, Drew is ready. All right, guys, let's bring him on. The business manager of In the Money Media, a fellow Chicagoan. Happy to call him that. This guy has covered Woodbine in the past like a glove. He'll be talking about it. Let's bring him on. The one and only Drew Coatney. Drew, long time no see. How you doing?
I'm good. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
You can.
Very good,
awesome.
Drew.
Awesome. Nice to be joining here.
Hey, Drew. Thanks for joining us. So, real quick, for people that are, you've been on our show one time before. It was actually last year, I think, for this card, if I remember correctly. For those of you not familiar with yourself, tell everyone a little bit what you do for In the Money Media specifically, and then also tell everyone who's listening why they should listen to you for picks specifically about Woodbine, and you do not have to be modest, sir.
Yeah. So I do the business management side of In the Money. So I work behind the scenes with Peter Thomas Fortental and Jonathan Kitchen to make sure the engine is running and that really horse players are being represented at the table when ad dollars from racetracks and other places are going out to make sure that coverage is being done in the right spots. So that's a little bit of what I do behind the scenes. We do tons of coverage on Friday. Matt Bernier's show is on ours for the early week to recap and look forward. We've got all sorts of great coverage, and we'd like to encourage people to participate in the Horse Player Happy Hours that happen every Thursday. $20 buy-ins for Breeders' Cup qualifiers, Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge qualifiers, and the VIG, as it were, goes to the TRF and the charitable foundations there. So you're kind of helping not only the charities out, but also your chance to try and get in at a low ratio qualifier there. So, yeah, all sorts of happenings over at InTheMoneyMedia.com.
Yeah, Kim Weir does a great job with TRF. We've had her on the show. She was also on the tour with myself and Matt Miller and Philly Joe Mecca, Brad Anderson when we were at Saratoga. Drew, tell everyone your experience with Woodbine. I know that you covered Woodbine like a glove last year on the blog, and it's a track you play regularly.
Yeah, so we've been covering. They were one of our original partners from way back when, trying to just provide a conversation place for others to be talking about what Woodbine is all about, and really they're massive fields and such a cool, unique track. Whether it's the all-weather track and looking for angles there, or whether or not it's on the turf races that get to be a bit fun when we're going to talk about a couple of them today that are, fantastic races in their outright, but the outer and the inner turf are great as well. So We do a ton of coverage over there. Typically, you can find me or someone else, most likely me, on Fridays giving out picks. And you can also subscribe to the In the Money Plus version of that will give out the actual recaps of what our picks are for us. But we really like to dive in, not give out too many favorites, or at least that's what I try not to do, because Woodbine has full fields for the most part, and you can typically find value in these races. And I really like to be able to follow a meet like this. And quite frankly, I paid attention to Woodbine, but never to the degree I do over the past 3 or 4 years. And it's proved quite profitable for us.
Drew, last question before we actually 2 quick questions. I look forward to speaking with you about maybe some advertising. I know you're into advertising. We can use a little advertising here on the HHH Racing Podcast. We'll talk about that off air. I don't want to put you on the spot. But in terms of back to Woodbine, how would you say the track plays? The weather's going to be great all week. It's going to be firm turf. For me, I think it's a little bit of a misunderstanding that very long stretch, people say, oh, it has to be closed all the time. Not necessarily, especially when it gets firm. Speed can hold just fine there too, don't you think?
I do. And I mean, look no further than Town Cruise, who has entered again in the Woodbine Mile.
Yeah.
And it is an interesting track, and we'll talk about it a little bit with others coming over and trying to play the track, whether or not we're talking about the EP Taylor, the outer track, big, wide, sweeping turns, think very much like Belmont. And then you get the inner turf that is tighter turns, advantaging the speeds. And that's been holding up pretty constant. That's been my general rule of thumb, especially if you see like a speed and fade type of horse that gets outgunned. Moving to the inner is always a great angle for us. And then the all-weather, I think we're talking about one all-weather race, today in the 8th. And the biggest thing I'm looking for, the track does play fair for the most part, but really upgrading and downgrading horses on trips, because unlike the Arlington slingshot that was, I don't know, Howard, if you ever played that angle, but man, being on the outside, if you're saving ground and then swing out, and it always feels like that's the winning path at Arlington. Here at Woodbine, if you're sneaking up the rail, you're pretty much golden for the most part. You're saving so much ground. So be on the lookout for those type of horses who maybe have been flattered because they sat behind some speeds, saved all the ground, and clunked up. But overall, it's been playing fairly consistent. I know some biased players are probably going to say, what, but, right? As Mike Maloney likes to say, you got to play the bias on your toes. But for the most part, I think this is going to be a great weekend of racing, and I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to jump into it right now. I was peeking over to my other screen here watching race 6 at Canterbury because, as you know, they got the BC Big Ten qualifier. Pete and Paul, a 3-5 shot, just lost to Sophie Barandella, who's a younger female jockey. She just won at 5-1. I only bring it up. I know a lot of people watching probably are not playing in the contest, but Drew, when a 3-5 loses, you have to figure a lot of people, from a contest perspective, are using that horse in doubles. That could very much sway the leaderboard. I'm curious to see. I did not play that race. I don't have a bet coming up until race 8, as I mentioned to Pete and Paul. But anyway, it's interesting that a 3-5 just went down in the contest. All right, Drew, let's get to the pick 5 guys at Woodbine. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our picks here on the screen. It starts with race 7. We'll see the scroll. There's our scroll right there on the bottom of the screen. Drew, as our guest, you're always going to start first. I'm going to bring up the Aquabase entries, of course, and then we'll bring up the DRFPPs. And Drew, of course, if you want me to show some replays, feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to do that for you. Race 7, we'll bring up right now, guys. There we go. This is the start of a fantastic pick 5. And Drew, as you know, this is the first of 3 win and you're in races for the Breeders' Cup. This is the Summer Stakes, the Pattison Summer Stakes. It's a grade 1. This is for babies. For 2-year-olds, they're going a mile on that outer turf course, so it's just a 1 turn. $500,000 is the purse. It's a small field, but it's a nice field of 7 that you can see on the screen. And there is a pretty heavy early morning line favorite. Let me refresh this because there we go. 6-5. Charles Alpeby's got a few horses in coming in here from Europe. The number 1, Mysterious Night, is the favorite. William Buick also coming in to ride. But Drew saying, no. I'm going with the Chad Brown show. I'm going to go with number 3, a very fast colt with Manny Franco, Appraise.
Yeah, I'm going with that horse. And really it started with what's going on at that 5.5 distance here, because you have to be so sharp out of the gate. And the first 200 yards out of that, if you want to pull up that replay, this horse is being scrubbed like midway through the backstretch of like, oh boy, we're not going fast enough. We're not a speed type. I think this EP Taylor is going to fit this horse like a glove.
He's the 8, everyone, in Kravets. Yep.
Yep, in the Kravets silks here. And you can see like, oh boy, there you are going fast. Oh boy. And maybe a little tap on the brakes, and then we'll start scrubbing here in a second. Say, let's even hands and heels getting involved. So I just don't think this horse was ready to quicken at that part of the race, where the pace really started to move up. And Oxymore continues on with the win here for this one. So I think for this one to be the only one gaining ground late, I think that's notable to watch. You can see the 8 pop out here in just a second. I think weaves through a little traffic. Huge upgrade for me with younger horses being able to stay true to the line for the most part and continue to gobble up some ground here as everyone else just kind of goes into merry-go-round finish. I made the morning line 2-1. I am shocked that you're going to get 5-1. I doubt you'll see anything close to that, frankly. I think we're going to see 5-2 and 3-2 on Mysterious Night, who I'm fading.
Really? Wow.
I really do think you're going to see a lot of money for the Manny Franco Chad Brown show, especially when people look down at the bottom right of their PPs and see that jockey trainer combo is 29% and then shipping up to take on these horses who really could be anything. And you go back and look at the debut. That's the foundation. I like to look for foundation figures. Did they earn it well? And that was a well-earned figure. I think that can get the job done on this race and will be in range early, unlike that other race we just watched, because this galloping type with the mile, you've got a long way to that first turn. And number 3, Appraise for me all the way.
Okay. And you've got this, I'll just quickly talk about the 7, who none of us have actually in the money. Stay on our good side, Mark Cassie, and Savachi, who sort of turned me off amongst a few other things, but I'll wait to talk about this race. I'll let you talk about the 7.
Yeah, and I will talk about the 7 before. Code of conduct. Am I allowed to go grab a beer at any point in this?
Are you kidding me?
Of course.
Listen, we had a drinking game last week, so absolutely. Do you need to step away for a second?
Oh, no, I got a full one. I just
hell yeah. Drink away, Drew. No worries there.
Cheers to you, Drew.
There you go.
Cheers, Paul.
So I have water, but cheers anyway.
So stay on our good side, which is a great name for a horse, by the way.
Yes.
It really comes down to a race replay. No one's going to pick up on what happened in this race, where Stay on Our Good Side made 2 moves, one early along the backstretch to get back into contention, and did it. And is the 6th horse in this race, I believe.
Yeah.
Did it well wide to get back into contention with the field, and then continue to run on fairly well on the wrong lead. If this horse can flip back on the right lead, I think this one could be really interesting. And Mark Cassie, I think, has confidence that this runner has more ability. And yeah, right here, you can kind of see the wrong lead going on, if anyone wants to see that there.
It's right there. There's actually a bunch of horses that are in this race that are running. This horse is the 7, I believe. The 7 here wins and is coming back also on Saturday.
And I will say the 7 is the 6 in the actual race on Saturday.
Yes.
Got a bit lucky. I will say is my 3rd choice. Did get a little bit lucky because had a subtle check out of the pace, and I think that set up really nicely as the pace collapse started to unfold up front. So number 7 ran on with it early on, and then continued to try and run on as we just saw. So the number 7, Stay on Our Good Side, ranks above for me, and I think number 6. There's nothing wrong with the number 6, Philip, my dear. I think will show, and I'm just completely fading Mysterious Night. I think this one came along for the ride for Charlie Appleby.
Wow. Okay.
And unless you guys know otherwise, I just don't see anything that gets me scared.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it. Pete, I'll let you go first. Pete and Paul both are are chalking out with Mysterious Knight, who's 6-5 morning line, has faced some decent horses over in Europe. I don't know if it's been the top 2-year-olds, but it's been involved in grade 2s and grade 3s for Godolphin Pete. Is this just a sort of a class play for you?
Well, it's more, yeah, it was more of an Appleby play, but I'm sort of with Drew where I didn't look at this as sort of, hey, this is an Appleby 6-5 that I think completely lays over the field. I sort of just put it on top as one of my choices who I think could win the race, as opposed to it being sort of like I would never have considered singling this one to start off the sequence or anything. Again, anytime you have Appleby Buick, I feel like they're hard to leave off. I did notice that I think Appleby's been here 7 times and he's won the last 5 times he's been at Woodbine. So he's just hard to leave off tickets. But I agree. When I watched some of the races, I wasn't blown away or anything by this horse by any means. Looks like he comes off the pace a little bit. But I mean, again, Appleby Buick, if you leave it off the ticket and it wins and then your opinions come in later, then you're just sort of pissed. Like, how could I leave Appleby Buick off? Especially because the horse, it's not like it doesn't have good form. It's just not like an overwhelming form over the rest of the field.
Paul, Pete, if you don't mind, I want to talk about the 5. Paul, any overall thoughts? We've talked about all 3 of your picks, 1, 3, 6. How strongly do you feel about this invader from Europe, Paul?
Single A for me.
Wow. Drew Coatney, take that. Lone A for Paul Halloran of the Saratoga Special.
Hey, I'm interested to hear.
Look, I'm a Saratoga guy. I agree with Drew. I thought the 3 ran well, and I do think, Drew, I would agree he'd be better stretching out, but I don't know. He was a little flat, even down the stretch in that race. I will say Oxygen was a good horse, and the horse that just nosed him out for 3rd did come back and win. So, I mean, I'm certainly going to be using a Chad Brown horse on the turf in a stakes race, but I don't think the Godolphin people need to send traveling mates. I think they mean business with the horses they send, and I do think this horse lays over the field.
Wow. Okay. Well, gentlemen, Pete, I want to give you a little credit because we have a sort of sneaky opinion here. Drew, I've talked about this on the show. The last 2 months, I've decided for myself just to handicap without the morning lines, even if they come out. So I handicap every single race that I'm going to talk about tonight, Drew, without the morning lines. And when I saw the morning line of the 5, Sammy Stone, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Let me talk about this horse a little bit, guys. First of all, Catherine Day Phillips is an excellent trainer. I'm not going to show the replay just for time purposes. Sammy Stone ran perfectly fine first time out. The sire Oscar performance, who's the first time sire, turf routes for the prodigy of Oscar performance right now, guys, in turf routes are 5 for 18 with winning over $290,000. So Oscar performance who was a very nice distance turf horse, has come out with his babies very well. This horse looks like he wants distance. I'm not a huge fan of Declan Carroll. However, this looked like a perfect prep, guys, and I'm assuming Pete feels the same way. This looked like a perfect prep for this race. I don't think there's any killers in here. I sort of agree with Drew that, okay, this one can win, but I don't know. I don't think he lays over the field. Plus, Drew, the 2-year-old Euros to me are not as overwhelming as older Euros compared to the U.S. horse. You know what I mean? I don't think they really crank up their 2-year-olds per se. And the other big favorite, Philip My Dear, here's my opinion, guys. This Soaring Free, this race that a lot of horses are coming out of that Drew has mentioned, that race just didn't do much for me, guys. I was like, blah. I don't know. They all clumped together at the end. And not only that, the girls that day, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, the girls that day who ran on August 20th, which, by the way, was my birthday, ran 0.3 slower. Excuse me, the boys ran 0.3 slower than the girls did. So, and this is the boys' race. I don't want anyone out of that Soaring Free, guys. So I think the 5 is fascinating. I cannot believe this price, at least underneath. Guys, I'm going 5-1-6. The Euro can win. Phil My Dear can win. I think Sammy Stone's interesting. Pete, final thoughts on Sammy Stone. You agree with me. You got this horse second.
No, I do. And I actually almost put it on top as well. But for me, it was more of I knew I was putting this horse on my horizontal ticket. So that was enough for me.
Yeah.
And then if you watch that race, like you said, we're not going to get into it, but it stumbled out of the break, got
Yeah.
stuck way back, closed like a shot, but then was also really green. That's the only concern is hopefully he could work out some of those kinks. If it works them out and can run straight, then and actually takes to the turf like the Oscar Performance horses seem to do, then I think this one has a big shot. And if we can beat a pretty big favorite with a bomb in the first leg, now you're in business a little bit. I just want to mention. Oh, sorry. Again, you want to talk about?
Well, just say he galloped out really well. Also,
he did.
My only concern with the praise, and I'm going to move on. And Drew, I'll let you comment, and we'll move on to the next race. When Chad, aren't his better horses that are 2-turn or route horses? Aren't they already going a route? Like you don't see him stretch out too much after 2 5.5 furlong races. I just find it a little bit of a weird move, Drew. And this mile, 1-turn mile, I wouldn't exactly say is your normal. Like Saratoga mile 16th route race because it's 1 turn, it's only a mile. But I just find this kind of move odd, Drew. Am I overthinking it?
I don't think so. I actually just looked up, and that's an angle I use a lot. Is like, why is Chad Brown shipping north of the border? And at Woodbine, he's something pretty abysmal. He's
2 for 20. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think he had 35 starts and only 5 wins. So
yeah, I had 2 for 20 in grade 1 turf races at Woodbine too. So yeah, he's not the Chad that you maybe expect when you're picking him. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Drew.
He's a horse I'm trying to beat. I think I have him as a C. All right,
real quick, Howard, I just want to say one thing for formulator people. And the one thing you don't get, though, is if you looked at the appraised horse, he's got a 74 and a 64 buyer. Then when we have it where you could see the time form, he's got a 101 and a 95 time form, which are pretty big gaps. So that actually swayed me a little bit to say, hey, that's not something you would see if you were just looking at the buyer figures. You might not notice that, but time form is showing it as a little faster. So if the buyers were more in line with that, maybe this horse would be someone that maybe would be a lower price like Drew was talking. Just wanted to mention that for some of the people who don't use formulator and can see the time form ratings.
That's interesting and good information. And we're going to have race day blog information on our tip sheet about those are some information that we'll be giving you. Let's go to race 8. This is the one race that Drew has mentioned that's on the synthetic, guys. It's the grade 3 Seaway. They're going 7 furlongs. It's for older fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. 150,000 is the purse. It's a field of 10 here, with the morning line favorite, number 9, Lady Spitespear for Atfield and Emma Jane Wilson. And everyone, you can see on the bottom of the screen. I don't think we need to talk too long about this race, guys. I'd rather actually talk about some other ones longer. Most of us have 5, 9. Pete has got the 7 in there. Drew, it's pretty simple to you. You're going with one of my daughters, Super Sensational. I'm just a big fan of this horse, Cassie and Husbands.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I like I said, I like to find foundation. And going back to October and September 20th, I didn't dig any farther back. I think that's actually all the runs that this horse has done. All 12 of them are displayed on the screen. But those 2 runs are just gigantic. And if it gets back on this all-weather surface, press, stalk, gets Lasix. They kind of claim for the first time, but I see other PPs that show actual Lasix. So is going to have Lasix again. I think this horse just romps in this spot. Lost to Boardroom 2 back. Great horse. Robin Sparkle's also a fast horse. The number 5, Super Sensational. Nothing else to add.
You also have the 9. By the way, how do you not pick the 8 on top, Drew Coatney? Coatney, how do you not pick the 8 on top?
I'm immune to it. Writing for Woodbine for 3+ years, there's a lot of Drew horses for some reason, and I never stopped to ask the question, who's naming all these horses Drew? But no, the number 9 Lady Spitespear, I think, is just the class of the field here. I mean, there's nothing creative. Overall, best figures. That last race is a little questionable of the soft fractions and not being able to really earn a high figure, but I think overall. Atfield knew what he needed to get done, did it, and then is cranked up for this spot here. So pretty fairly simple. I would look at the or the probables and the exacta pool with those 2 runners to see if you have an opinion one over the other and play it cold, because I bet you could get 8-9 to 1 odds on those 2 runners because they do look to stand well above the field. And another thing to note is at Woodbine, you get a lot of speed and fade type clunkers who just drop anchor and make havoc for any of the stalking types. So with both of these going to be in tactical positions that shouldn't have to deal with too much traffic, I don't see any reason why not to play a cold exact at 5-9 for me on the day.
Let's go to Paul. Do you want to add anything, Paul? And if not, we can simply just pass it on.
No, I think they're both. The distance is ideal. They both love the Woodbine synthetic, and I agree with Drew. I'm going to live and die. I like the 5 a little better, but 2 A's for me and move on.
Okay. Pete, you want to talk about Hazelbrook, who's in really good form, 3 for her last 3. This is a step up in class. The buyer, this is weird for me because the buyers are pretty close, but it just feels to me, Pete, like this horse is stepping up like bigger in class and is just not as good as the buyers say. I don't know why I feel that way. It just, she hasn't faced nearly the kind that the others two have faced.
No, not even close. And I mean, I agree with everything you guys said and what Drew said about the top 2. They sort of tower over it from a class standpoint. This was one where I just sort of took a shot, and I like the paired up buyer tops, lifetime buyer tops in the last 2. A lot of times that leads to a move forward. So if you can get this one to maybe now move forward into the 90s a bit, then I think has a shot. But again, the class is going to be tough. But I like the price, and I figured let me split up the 2 favorites, at least for my horizontal, see if I can get a price in there, because I kind of lean to the 9 a little more. I mean, the horse has never lost it. From what I saw, never lost at Woodbine, regardless of whether it's turf or synthetic. So I sort of lean to the 9, and then so let me get a couple of prices in there if I can. And I actually put the Dreaming of Drew, and that wasn't because I was, kissing his ass because he's going to be on the show. I just sort of like the horse, so I figured I'm going to put that one in as well.
Yeah, and by the way, Lady Spitesburg is one of the horses that scratched out of that Kentucky Downs race with Delika and Princess Grace that we talked about. And it looks like they were always just pointing to this spot. She was just cross-entered. She does go for 126. Drew, I'm not a weight guy at all, really, but that is a lot of weight. So meanwhile, Super Sensational is carrying 121. To me, that might be a little bit of a difference. I don't know. We could talk about that another time, but that 5 pounds might play into it on a close photo finish for sure. Let's go ahead to the next race, guys, because we got some really great races coming up. Race 9, you see our picks on the bottom of the screen. So I go ahead and switch over to race 9. This is the big one, guys. This is the Rico Woodbine Mile. It's really one of my favorite races of the entire year. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. It's just a fun race. It's going to be about 5:35 Eastern Standard Time. It is another win, and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Mile, a $1 million purse, 3-year-olds and up. And there are some real stars in this race, as there usually are every year, led by the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner from last year in a very controversial race. Nothing to do with modern games specifically, but just from a betting perspective, of course. Charles Appleby, William Buick, 7-5 morning line. But Drew is going to go with the Paulo Lobo trained and Joe Talamo ridden Brazilian bred Ivar.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. I was writing this up and no morning lines, all that good stuff to really force your hand in thinking how you are going to shape out this race logically. And to me, there was 3 things I needed to answer. First is, what's the pace going to look like? Are we going to see Town Cruise again, who was loose on the lead and just kind of got the run of the race, easy peasy? So that's the first thing. Is there going to be a hot pace? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Because you got Town Cruise, you got Get Smoking, you got a couple others who have some speed in here to press. The next question is, where will Modern Games be placed? My opinion is he's going to be placed aggressively on that rail, just like we saw in the Bahid race last out, pressing the pace and trying to kick on from there. I think Modern Games is going to get softened up just enough by some of these other speeds. The last question, and the big one, is Modern Games good enough to justify that price with these 2 decisions that we just had to make? And in my opinion, you're going to see not only that narrative of, man, and I was there, I wanted to bet Modern Games, and I didn't get to do it. And I want to get revenge. I want my money back. I'm going to get it. And I knew that was a sure thing, and how dare they take it from me? That's going to drive the price down. The other point,
do you really? So you really think there's still feel pissed off from 6 months ago, 8 months ago?
It doesn't matter if they're pissed off. It's something that people are talking about that are going to attract money that says, hey, look, this horse is a superstar, and we told you so, and we didn't even get a bet on it. I think it's just a narrative that's going to continue to drive publicity, whether or not it's in a good light or bad.
Interesting.
The other thing, I did some time form digging, and believe it or not, the last race that Modern Games ran was plus or minus 4 time form figs than anyone else in this field. Which leads me to a question of was Baid even really cranked up for that race, the number 1 turf horse in the world right now? And I think everyone's going to gravitate towards that and say, look, Modern Games was a length behind Baid. Oh my gosh, this horse is the next greatest thing. And at the price we're going to get on the day, with the hot pace, with the place that Buick's going to have to position this horse, I just don't know if I can back a short price on this. And so I landed for someone who's coming off the pace with the number 2 Ivar. And I just think this horse is spotted well, has only lost by 4.5 lengths over the last 3 starts in what are arguably some slow paces where there was a middle slow faction in that last listed stakes race. But Paul Lobo is terrible at layoffs. I think that was a complete prep and a step to get to this spot here. I mean, you can almost see the same pattern going from the Turf Classic into the Keeneland Turf Mile. Similar type of pattern. We're going to get that one start under the belt in the mid-90s and then really pop here. I think this horse is going to get the perfect setup. I'd expect the price to drift a little bit even. I would wager we're going to see 9-2.
Really? Wow. I'll tell you, if you get 92, that might be a steal. I know Pete agrees with that. You're going to Ivar over Modern Games, Pete.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I don't want to waste too much time because I pretty much just agree with Drew. The one thing I did look at was his 3 races where he was, he didn't perform as well, were without Lasix, and he's without Lasix here, but they were also against monster fields, and he still had his buyers, so he still was in the same range. So it didn't look like he ran badly. He was just maybe running against better. But I was just a note to make to say, hey, he did underperform a bit when he was off Lasix. So if that's something that concerned you, just take it into account.
Paul,
Pete, I was going to add real quick, Pete. Speaking of underperforming, I forgot. Don't forget that in a combined 26 horse field with Modern Games. Sorry to make you keep scrolling here, Howard. 26 horses. The Modern Games went off the heavy favorite to be disappointed by quite a few lengths. I think there's signal in that as well. So that was another one that paused me to say, why am I going to take even money on this horse that I want my money back on? That's how I wanted it. I wanted to play Modern Games really bad.
By the way, Ivar broke a track record in Indiana Downs in that last race. Although I will say, guys, and Ivar is a perfectly fine horse and can win, and I'm using him. He got the unbelievably perfect setup in that race, although it was off a layoff and ran very well. Just want to mention that. Paul, you and I say, you know what? Ivar's a nice horse. This horse was Modern Games was length and 3/4 off by Eid. Paul, you buying the argument maybe Modern Games is a bit overrated, that how the way Drew feels, or at least overbet in this spot?
Well, he may be overbet. I think there's some validity to that, but I mean, all the animosity should be placed on the feet of the California stewards. They were the only incompetent ones in that. The horse didn't do anything wrong. The jockey didn't do anything wrong. The bettors didn't do anything wrong. You had 3 idiots in the booth who didn't know how to handle something.
There you go. Paul keeps it real on this show, Drew. That's why we got this guy here.
And
I like it. I like it.
Walkie-talkies and cell phones, and instead of it's only the Breeders' Cup, but let's hit the scratch button without even talking to anyone. Other than that, I don't think he's going to be quite as close in this particular race. I do agree with you on the hot pace theory, and I do think Ivar is good in that scenario. I kind of think Ivar might be a better 2-turn closer than 1-turn closer because of that. But in lieu of that, I mean, I didn't really have a strong opinion on Buick. These guys know how I feel about when they send the Euro jockeys over, but I saw him up close 2 days in a row at Saratoga, and I am, this is not Jamie Spencer coming over. This is a guy who can ride outside of Europe, and I kind of think, Drew, he's going to have him pretty much exactly where he needs to. That's why I went with him, Howard.
Guys,
he's won a few more than I have, that's for sure. So yeah,
and you've won a lot more than I have, Drew. So let's be clear on that.
I have a pretty strong opinion here, guys. And modern game is 7-5. Can we just look carefully at his PPs a second? Okay. Let's go 3 back. This horse is not like it's soft. I feel confident. And soft at Shanty is like you don't even run. If that was the United States, it would be off the turf. They wouldn't even run. And he doesn't want to go a mile and 5:16. So the 1-3 back on that's and Videni's a nice horse. So to me, whatever. Last time or 2 back, 7 furlongs, ran perfectly fine against Tenebrism, was a very nice horse. His last race, I'm not going to show the replay. Drew, I thought it was legit. I mean, he gave Baid a real run, and when Baid accelerated, it's not like Modern Games gave up. He like dug in, and that was a legitimate loss by only a length and 3/4. And I also carefully watched the gallop out, Drew, and Modern Games was like only about a length off on the gallop out to the best horse in the world. I think this mile, one turn, hits Modern Games right between the eyes. It's going to be very firm. I agree with Paul. I don't think this horse is going to be that close. I think he's going to be in mid-pack. He's going to absolutely explode in the stretch. I think Modern Games is very, very tough to beat here, although I do like Ivar. I just want to mention as we move on to the next race, I think you guys are giving a little short shrift to Get Smokin'. Now, Drew, you talked about the pace here. The only real pace that I see here now, so Get Smokin' has a 124 early time form rating, everyone, if you believe in that. The only other one that's really War Bomber's an 89. He's not going to be close to the pace. Town Cruise. The blinkers come off, Drew, and he's already 7. This horse is going backwards. I'm not saying they're going to take back, but I don't think he's got the speed that he used to. I think Get Smokin', guys, is absolutely, I won't say loose on the lead, but is going to get to the lead. I've always liked this horse. Any horse that can get to the lead is dangerous. I think he's a big factor in this race. And if you see like 23-3 and like 46-4 on a firm turf course, look out, guys. Get Smokin' is not impossible in this race, in my opinion. Maybe Ivar and Modern Games get a little bit of traffic trouble. I think Get Smokin' is fascinating. I don't like him on top, but he's a big use underneath. Drew, tell me I'm wrong, and then we'll go on to the next race.
No, I don't think it's crazy. I mean, he's the best loose leader candidate. I think one of the horses that we're overlooking that's going to play into that pace factor is the number 4 Finest Sound. Okay. I did some of my work really early this morning, so I may be mixing up some thoughts, but I did have this one as a horse that's going to be up and near the lead. Okay. Again,
but is he as fast? Is Euro speed as good as fast as American speed?
And that's the big question. I mean, what's that going to translate when you're not putting up 2-foot divots every time you take a step with your hoof? So it's going to be the one thing I can take away that I know for certain is this race is going to be fascinating to watch unfold and will be a replay we watch for a while.
Absolutely. If you guys don't mind, I'm still looking at a quick. Hey, I moved up one place in the leaderboard without making a bet in the BCBC contest. So, by the way, Dylan Rossi is in 24th, who is who's been. We a lot of guests are all over the leaderboard from this show, so we're pretty happy about that. Let's move on to the next race, guys. As race 7 just ended, but I didn't bet it, so I'm not worried about it. The next race, I am making a bet. So those people that were coming on the show curious to see like what I'm doing, I am making a bet in the next race, which means Pete, you're going to be taking over for a few minutes in about 10 minutes or so for about 2 minutes. If all that makes sense. Let's go to the next race, guys, of the pick 5 sequence. It is race 10. Race 10. This is the Natal Mistakes. Let me go ahead and bring up the Pete. There we go. Actually, let me go this way. All right. This is the other win and you're in for the Breeders' Cups. The Johnny Walker. There you go. The Johnny Walker Natal Mistakes Grade 1. This is for the girls. This is just like the boys race for the 2-year-olds, but it's for the girls. 2-year-olds, 1 mile, $500,000. You got a big field of 8, a pretty big field. Morning line favorite. I was surprised, Drew, when I saw the morning lines, frankly, that this horse is that low. Let me switch the picks. There we go. Now we see the picks on the bottom of the screen. The number 1 is the favorite, Cairo Consort, who won last time for Squires and Gallardo. You are going with a horse that got a pretty tough trip, in my opinion. The number 6, Wickenheiser, an Ontario bred for Kevin Attard and Louis Contreras.
Yeah, let me start with, this is a tough race. Really tough race. And number 6, Wickenheiser, I think did get the bad trip, had to make an early move, and had the most ground lost. And I just think that's going to be an upgrade in my book. If we watch the number 2 as the replay comes up, but the number 1 on Saturday, Cairo Consort, I think just got a kind of a perfect trip here.
Oh, yeah. And your horse is the 11 here in the back of the pack in the yellow.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other one that someone may talk about, the number 5, Adora, is the 10, who is stalking up near the pace, I think.
He's the 5. You want to keep your eye on the 2, 5, and 11 in this race. I'll just let it keep rolling through. Drew, you can continue to talk about your 11 if you'd like.
Yeah, no, it's the 5 or the 10 in this race.
Oh, is it the 10? Am I wrong?
Yeah, Adora is the 10 here. Yeah, and so I just think that.
Oh, my bad. Adora is the 10. Wickenheiser is the 11, though.
Yeah, so here's the big move. No one has to make any other moves. And at the longer distance today, this horse will be much more in touch and not have to exert so much energy that's right there, and then just tries to run on with it and can't quite catch up to what now is a foot race that this one's already been having to be in a foot race by himself, more or less, for a couple furlongs. So I think this is a wide open event, and 3-1 feels a little, honestly, short to place a bet. It's not an absolute sure thing. And I think Cairo Consort, the one thing I do know is that flattering trip. I don't know if I can really consider that a grounds for making that horse the favorite on the day in terms of where my betting dollars are going.
And you're using the 5, Adora, who is the 10, making that move along with the 11. You got Adora in second, and you have the 1, Cairo Consort, who, figures they had a real good trip again, though. That's the thing that I have her on top, although I don't feel great about it, but there's really no reason, Drew, why she can't just get another great trip again.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's one of those. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just a really tough race with these. I completely agree. I wish there was a new face that I liked in here. I mean, that would be really like, if I could really gravitate towards the number 3, G. Laurie, which I don't know. I'm watching the ticker scroll by if anyone really liked G. Laurie. Oh, fantastic. Someone will be able to talk about it. Talk about her. So
if you don't mind, I'm going to have Paul talk about this horse. Paul, G. Laurie, you've got in second, I believe, correct? I thought this was a very impressive move. G. Laurie, we'll just go to the middle of the race. G. Laurie's the 7 right here, Paul. This is out from Colonial Downs, making a huge, wide sweeping move and winning. Not sure who she faced, but boy, this is about as impressive as a visually that you're going to see from a first-time starting 2-year-old going a route.
Yeah, I agree. And she's really, the jockey is really not asking much yet. Now, she is in touch with the field. She's kind of moving on her own. He's urging a little, but the other thing is Graham Motion doesn't often have him cranked 100% on the first-time start either. That's one thing. The other thing is the Colonial Downs form, especially if you've followed the recent Kentucky Downs meet, the Colonial Downs form has held up very well. So I agree with Drew. I picked the 1 on top because I had to pick someone on top. And the caveman ticket that we'll show later on, I am, I think, 5 deep in this race out of 8. Yeah. I'm banking. My strategy is going to be to live with the chalk with the Applebee's and try to get prices in these last 2 races. And, if this one wins at 2-1 in this last race, even though I'll have them, then I'm going to be either not cashing or cashing for peanuts and popcorn.
Pete, anything you want to add? We already talked about your 3 horses. Let's bring this back on screen. Pete, the stride of G. Laurie is what really blew me away. I mean, this horse reaches out. By the way, another Oscar performance.
I was just going to say, that's 2 for me so far.
Yeah, I mean, the stride on this horse is just, you think she's going to love a long stretch, just like Colonial is. I mean, I don't know if she can repeat that effort or be better, but this is an aggressive spot for Graham Motion. That angle I like a lot. Like, he could put her in a lot of spots. This seems to be an aggressive spot. Paul agrees with that, shaking his head.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I was just impressed by the the visual performance. So from there, I figure if this is a really tough field, though. I mean, I had a tough time getting through this one, but that performance, I like the switch to Franco. I like the Oscar performance angle. Although I did see Graham Motion I had him as 0 for 14 in grade 1 turf races at Woodbine, and they were all single digit odds too. So it wasn't like he had a bunch of bombs. Again, I don't know what that means, but it's just something to keep an eye on. But again, I just like the performance. And this is another one where the time form had it a little more impressive, where you look at that buyer and say, 57, that's not that great. The time form had it at 81, so usually drop about 20. Now you're in the 60s. Now you're sort of on par with the debuts of some of the others in this field, so it's a little bit closer.
Yeah, I just like the Philly race from August 20th a lot more than the Colt race, and so I think there are a lot more a lot of these horses are coming out of that race. But guys, I'm using 6 here. Drew, I think you nailed it right on the head. I think this is the biggest spread race of the sequence. I don't have a real strong opinion. I just think you have to spread in this race. Let's go ahead to the last race of the sequence, guys. Race 11. As I go ahead and pressing budget buttons, so I got to keep an eye on the on race 8. And it's supposed to Canterbury. I have a little small investment into this BCBC, so and I obviously am still very much in this contest with 5 races to go and my bigger plays coming up. All right, so race 11. This is not the last race at Woodbine, which might confuse people, but it is the last race of the sequence. And it's a 20-cent base bet, right, Drew? So, if you have a lower budget, you can play a nice cheap ticket. Right, Drew?
Yeah, sorry, coming off mute. A little
no problem.
ITM issue that we always have with Jonathan here. But
the 20-cent base bet's a nice thing, right? Especially for your lower budget players.
Yeah, and it is great, and I love playing it. I do play some bigger increments, but if I'm sitting around watching football and having a beer and I want to play some races, it's a great proving ground to have some skin in the game and continue to be able to play multi-sequence bets and make sure your bet construction is accurate. And so that you don't end up upside down. So they're great little proving grounds with low risk for us. But at the same time, for this race, specifically when I was putting it together, this sequence, it really helps you get some coverage where I think 20 cents is going to pay really well if we can beat Modern Games and maybe a couple others in the sequence as well.
Well, this is on that inner turf, which plays completely differently. I'll let you talk about that as we talk about this race. It's a mile 16th. It's your traditional 2 turns. Allowance optional claiming 32 down to 30. You're going with an 8-1 morning line shot for sort of low profile connections. I believe it's pronounced Gowful. For Squires and Simon husbands, 8-1 morning line, going a little price shopping in the last leg.
Yeah, and this is also a spread race. When I do my write ups, sometimes I'll just put consideration type horses, and in this one it was a top choice. I think the last 3 turf tries were pretty good with a little bit of trouble in each of them, whether or not being a little pace compromised or otherwise, and I think, again, we'll be able to be up near it pretty much where you want to be, especially in these races that look murky. And I just think this one is going to fit on form and figures for husbands. The only thing that I don't like that I do see, and this is why I say it's a little bit of a spread race, riding the inner and riding the turf, all these guys are going to be riding outer. The one thing that I will say, and I said it about Kentucky Downs on Tuesday, there was 1 7 furlong race on the day in that contest on Tuesday, and I had a hunch that it was going to be mess with jockeys' heads, and it sure did. I wouldn't be surprised if you see something similar to this, where these guys have been riding the wide swooping EP and then get over to the inner on these tighter turns. I'm curious how their clocks are going to form in their head. For golfers, it'd be like trying to hit a full wedge shot 100 times, and then now you have to hit a 50-yard high draw, right? It's just a little different. Some things can happen weird. So the number 6 Gayful for me, and then I have also 3 others I'll run through. The 7 Big Band Lezian, if it gets loose, could be easy winner. Number 8 Spitestown Cheryl's second start of the year, looks like could love the inner speed and tactical. And then the other one is number 10, Miss Maria, pet horse of mine from a long time ago. when winning at 20-1 into a deep closing on a all weather surface and gets over to the turf. Hasn't really done too much, but has run decently, and I think could be prime for like this is the time where I'm imagining the number 10 is going to be overlooked at a pretty big price. So 6, 7, 8, 10 for me. I know it's not labeled here in the three top choices, but frankly, all of those are pretty evenly weighted, and I wouldn't bet a contest on any of those horses.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. Just for the next few minutes here, Drew, we're going to keep you on for about 5 more minutes if that's okay. I'm going to put myself on mute here, Pete. And I'm going to let you and Paul, you guys see on the scroll at the bottom. I'll just quickly say that I like the 8 Speightstown Churl on the screen here, who had nice numbers last year as a 3-year-old filly. That last race was a complete prep, in my opinion, for this. It was a slow pace. So if people are worried about the buyer, I think that's a product of the ridiculous 47 1/2 going 6 furlongs on the turf. I think she's primed and ready to make a big step forward. I'm not a huge fan of the 5 seconds, maybe a little second-itis I'm a little concerned about, but I'm going 8-7-5. Pete and Paul, you guys chop up this race, and I'm also, just in case I don't get back on for a few more minutes, I'm going to go ahead and I can listen to what you're saying, Pete, because I'm going to mute. When you guys are done, I'll show Drew's pick 5, and that will end Drew's segment for the show. So I'm going to put myself on mute, Pete, and you and Paul can talk about this race into Drew's pick 5 while I make a little side wager here in the BCBC. Go ahead, Pete.
Do it up. And actually, Drew, on your 10, one thing, if people want to watch, I really like the race 2 back. I thought the horse showed like a lot of athleticism, sort of dive into the rail, coming through, really had a nice closing kick. And then the one thing I also liked was he sort of dropped down into this company, then off that race, moved back up, didn't run as well, was okay, and now is dropping back down to this company where it ran so well 2 back. So I think you had a price for sure. That's why I had that one in second. Paul, let's go to you for a second. You have the 1. You're the only one on the board with the 1, and you have it on top. English Biscuit, nice 15-1 shot. Why don't you talk about him a little bit, or her a little bit?
Yeah, well, as I said before the last race, I after I looked at this race a few times, I went in with the premise that I really think it's a spread race. I think the 5 is going to be way over bet. They have to bet them, but 10 seconds and 26 starts. The 7 is going to be bet, who I will use. Drew makes a good point on the inner versus the regular turf. 2 horses in this race are coming off wins on the inner. The 7, who's 3-1, coming off a 25,000 claimer, and the 1 who's 15-1, coming off a $25,000 handicap. The 1 has run with better. If you go down deeper into the PPs, only been on turf 3 times, but he's won 1 of the 3. I think he gets a good trip from in there, and again, certainly I'm looking to spread. I'm looking for value, and I thought he fit both of those qualifications. Yeah,
and I liked, because I actually had that one on my short list as I was going through, and sort of liked the price, even though I didn't make the ticket ultimately. But I always like a horse when they try something new, and you put this one on the turf, and it sort of improved a little bit in certain respects over its synthetic form. But I did like once they stretched it out a little bit, it actually ran really well. And now you're adding another 16th of a mile. So maybe this one, it's an English channel, so maybe this one will appreciate that extra distance. You had the 5. The 5 is 5-2. So I don't know if you want to talk in a little bit more detail. I had the 5 in third. It was more of I did see, and Drew, I don't know as a Woodbine person if I don't follow it enough to know the trainers or the trainer jockey combinations, but I saw the Sherkop Kimura combo was 1 for 33 at Woodbine. So that was a surprising one. Anytime I see something like that, I'm like, I don't know if there's a reason, and maybe Drew, these, some of the players a little better than I would, but I don't know if there's a reason or if that's just a freak coincidence at this point.
No, I think Kimura's agent does a great job placing him on high likely winners, and Steven, unfortunately, this year just has not been winning at any nice clip. I actually have never seen a bias of wins of 9 wins out of 100, so 9% win rate, but is 36%
nice in the money.
Yeah, in the money.
Yeah.
So it's just can't get those winners done. And I think Kimura's jockey is keeping him. If there's nothing really in a race, that's where he's going. And I think his figures and percentages show for that as well. So
well, and it's funny too because even on that stat that their combo was 14 for 33 in the money, so it's the same. It's sort of the same concept where it's actually hitting the board. Well, that's why when I looked at this 5, though, I'm like, hey, if I can get a 5-2 shot who seems to like to run second a lot and whose trainer jockey combo doesn't like to win, maybe this is a spot where you can beat a low-priced horse if this one does go either as the favorite or pretty close to it. Paul, I don't know. Do you have anything else to add on the 5? Anything you really like about it to make sure it's an inclusion? I did see they ran 1-2. Your 2 horses 2 back. I always like that little angle too.
Well, and again, the 1 won that race and is 15 to 1.
And it's 15,
here,
yeah.
And the 5 runs. One thing we know the 5 can do is run second. Now, in a pick 5. You got to use him defensively, but he's going to be one of those ones that if you get chalk coming into it, there's just no value. And again, I will use him defensively because if I do get something longer early, in the previous race, for example, but no, I have my comment I have written down on my sheet here is the horse will be overbet. I think at 5-2 he's overbet, to be honest with you.
Agree. I mean, for a horse who doesn't seem to like to win that much, although, at least this year it's been, what is it now? 3 out of 9. So it's basically a little bit better this year, which is funny. The older it gets, the more it starts winning. But I mean, it's a hard one to leave off again, because it's always there. So you hate to leave those off, but you hope that it maybe just doesn't like to win, and that's how you could beat a favorite. One more I want to talk about. Drew sort of mentioned it before, but we didn't get into her too much. Is the 7 Big Band Louisiane, and I wanted to mention this one because this is one where when I look at the time forms and you see sort of a big disparity between the top time form early pace and the second time form early pace, and this one. The 7 horse has a 103 time form early pace, and the 8 is next with an 87, and then there's a couple more in the 80s. So this one just seems to have a really strong pace advantage, and I like the fact that at least even 2 back, it didn't look that great, but it was also dueling on a hot pace, whereas last time it was able to sit off a little bit. I think it was sitting off sort of a really soft speed horse, but still it showed a little bit of a different dimension, and I feel like this one might have the ability to get loose. Drew, I know you have this one in second. What did you like about the 7?
Yeah, it's purely the ability to run on that surface. I don't think there's going to be a ton of pace pressure in here today, and just get loose. I mean, just flat out loose. I think the last 2 times ran maybe a bit faster than wants to really run, or 2 back ran faster than wants to run, and if can get away on the lead, at the price we're going to get of 3-1, it doesn't seem too bad. And Contreras, as Robert Geller, the track announcer, pronounces it, Contreras, or some great intonation that I am not a professional.
He's excellent.
Oh my gosh, he is.
He's
excellent. I think this. Go ahead, and I'll make one more point.
No, finish your point, then we're going to move on here with your pick 5 and some contest talk here.
Yeah, I was just going to say this horse is still 4 years old, and the 3-year-old back form is pretty impressive too. Yep. And so continues to improve, and I think found her calling on the inner turf up at Woodbine.
And you talked about the configuration, that this is one that's a little different. I was looking up the PP winning percentages, and for some odd reason, the 7. I mean, I think there's a certain string. It might have been 5, 6, and 7, which were the best posts at this configuration. And the 7 was 27% wins, and it was actually out of a half decent number of runs. So I was like, hey, there's a horse that I like who has a speed advantage and is in at least a post position section that seems to do really well at this configuration. So you put all those together, and it's one to take a shot with.
So before we show Drew's, there's some major. Drew, I know, is a very experienced live money contest player. Drew, last year, the 11th place finisher had somewhere in the realm of $3,000, and the winner had I think $8,000. I finished in 6th with a little over $4,000 last year, and that was with over 100 entries. This year, there's 85 entries. I just want to show the current leaderboard with 5 races left here, because it is absolutely crazy as I show. These are some really big numbers for this type of contest here. Again, you start with $2,000. Darren Schweiger. I'm not familiar with him, Drew. I don't see that. I apologize for not knowing him. He's already up to 10,000. Matt Miller is still very comfortable in 5th place, though, but he hasn't really made any real bets there at 54.80. Right now, to qualify, you have to get up to 38.80 as of this moment, with 5 races left. And last year, you qualified with 3,100. So people are absolutely firing this year much more aggressively. Where am I? Again, I'm in 29th. I'm only, I'm 2,000 off of qualifying, but I still have 5 races, and I just made my second mandatory play. And of course, Drew, I don't want to say who I'm betting until the race goes on, but we're going to be on live here because the race is going to go off pretty darn soon. Drew, let's go ahead and let me get rid of this here before I get myself in trouble. And let's show your.
It does pay to 11, right? They're paying 11 regardless of entries.
From what I understand, I'll have to check emails.
They're paying 11, but one of the berths is guaranteed to the highest on-track person. So if you finish 15th overall, but you are at Canterbury, from where I read the rules, you're getting in. The highest on-track plus the next 10.
I'm looking at my email. I don't. Yeah, it says 11. So good for them. That's a very high percentage. Drew, let's talk about your pick 5, and then I want to see how much. By the way, the races are on YouTube, guys. So if you want to watch and cheer me on, or anyone at home wants to watch, as we're live here on Thursday night with the Canterbury contest, I did make a big bet in race 8. It's not my whole bankroll, but let's just say it's a sizable part of what I have remaining. And I will tell you my bet here right before the race happens. I'm going on. What do we got? About 4 minutes, guys, but it is on YouTube. So you can simply go to the Canterbury Park YouTube channel if you want to watch and cheer along with me, which is what actually I'm going to do right now. But Drew, we got 3 minutes to post here. Drew, let's talk about your pick 5. Now, Drew sent me sort of an ABC kind of pick 5, everyone, and I didn't want to throw out all the combinations. Drew, I love your bet, but just to make it simplistic, I basically combined all of your bets into one.
Yep.
And this is not your all A play, so I'll just let you explain for as long as you want. But these are the horses that Drew would use in general. But he's going to talk about how he would weigh his opinions a little more. This is at $21.60. Drew, take as long as you want, and then we'll let you leave the show here after you explain your ticket.
Yeah, I'll be 2 minutes so we can watch your race here. So. Okay. The name of the game is trying to beat modern games, and now Mysterious, whoever the one horse is to kick it off in the summer stakes. If we beat those 2 horses, we're going to get absolutely paid, filthy, and that's really what I'm about, is trying to get paid. And Mysterious Knight is the horse's name, to give proper due to that horse. And so I'm willing to be wrong more than I am right, but when I'm right, I really want to get paid. And so what I would go through and do is try and weight this to my strongest opinion. And one of those strong opinions in the sequence here is the sorry, I'm scrolling through here quick. I think I can't find it here as I'm put on the spot for a second. Is the Super Sensational, the number 5.
Yeah.
And so would really weight that second leg pretty heavily, and then back up with the 9 Lady Spite Spear, and then go pretty much even Stevens throughout the rest of the sequence, maybe waiting a little bit if you know one horse is going to be at 15-1. I think you could get this ticket combination structure done with maybe 6 tickets at most, to make sure that you're weighting your opinions appropriately so that you can hit it a couple more times. If that second horse, the Super Sensational, wins, we're going to make sure to get paid.
Yeah, fantastic. I like your structure here, and I would definitely recommend you press up. So I'm seeing 1 minute to post on YouTube. So I know YouTube is about, the YouTube channel is about 30 seconds behind. So I still can't talk about my bet. But let's just go ahead and talk about it, because and then we'll let you go after the Canterbury race. How does that sound? So
they're approaching the gate, Howard. I got the feed on Naira bets.
They're going to the gate, you said?
They're approaching the gate.
Okay. Actually, I'm going on.
Maybe you want to give your pick, because then Matt Miller might want to do the opposite and move up.
Easy.
I may or may not be.
Take it easy. All right, I see. Yeah, I see 0 minutes to post on. They're not, so what I did in general. First of all, I have what 1,800, right? I think it's so I will say I bet 500 in this race, Drew. And Drew, I think you guys can comment, but Drew is probably more of a live money contest player than Pete and Paul. Drew, I decided to bet 500 of my 1,800 because I have a very strong opinion in here. I didn't want to go all in. I wasn't that strong, and I do like some races going forward. I put a win bet in. I also did my back wheel. I have a horse I like. I'm putting this particular horse in all 3 spots in the try, weighing more in first and second. And then Drew, I'm also this particular horse I like. Again, I'll say the number when they go from the gate. Not that anyone's watching this and gonna change their mind.
I was going to say, I think you're
well,
right.
I don't feel comfortable doing.
I know who you bet, Howard.
All right. Well, hold on. So I've got this horse in doubles, Drew. I've got this horse in all 3 spots in the try, and I also have a win bet on this horse. For people who are interested in live money contests, Drew, you got to be careful. I'm probably spreading myself too thin here, but I just want a variety of bets because I don't think he has to win. Any thoughts from a contest perspective? Are you more of a doubles guy? Are you more of a just flat win bet? You like the exotics? What do you like to do in general?
Yeah, it's all the objective, and I don't know the price of your horse. I mean, if you tell me it's the 10 at 20-1, makes all the sense. More power to you. Let's make sure to get paid for a clunk up. But I'm assuming it's somewhat middle priced or logical. And I like to think, what is the object? How is this giving me a competitive edge with placing this wager to win? And what's the least amount of variability I can take on? I think that's one thing. The sensei Matt will teach anyone who wants to talk about live betting, and it really is not rocket science. It's one of those light bulb moments where how do you reduce variability and ensure success? And so, don't love the idea of doing doubles, win bets, and trifectas in one race, and instead trying to be strategic with how is this $500 in capital going to get you to the winner's circle?
Yeah. So if I hit this, I'm going to be in good shape going forward. So guys, they're going to the gate. The horse I'm using who got bet down quite a bit is the 5. So if you're rooting for me, you need this 5 horse to be first or second. I third would be not great, but not horrible, depending on who else comes in. I do have some bombs underneath and tries, but I win bet on the 5, and I also have doubles only with the 5. The 5 is a closer and a race with a lot of speed. Pete and Paul, just in case you guys are a little ahead of me, I'd appreciate if it's close, don't spoil the fun for me. As they're about to break from the gate, I need the 5 silver or something, and they're off, and the 5 looks like he broke okay. I need the speed to develop. The 5's about where I thought he'd be, sort of mid-pack, and the 4 and 6, I need this 4 to keep going up there and battle a little bit.
Oh,
nice gray
closer. Gray closer. That's right up my alley, Howard.
Yeah, I don't love where he is right now. I thought the 4 would be the one really pressing hard. I have no idea why this 4 is off the pace. The 5 is much closer than I thought. He's in the 3 path. He looks comfortable.
Didn't the 4 figure to go the lead here, Howard?
That's what I thought. It is fast. They went 21 and 4. I don't love where the 5 is. I just thought he'd be further off, but he's in a good spot. Come on, this 5. This 6 should be dying. Again, if you're... Oh, he just tipped out. Blow by everyone. Now let's go.
Oh, way behind. You're way behind.
I know. You guys probably know who won already. Oh, why is he so damn wide? Jesus Christ. Kick on. Is this the 8 in the inside? God damn it. It's the chalk. Well, get up for second at least. Don't tell me he's not going to go past this 4. Ah, it's fucking chalky. Oh, excuse my language. Yeah. All right. Well...
Hey, it's a family show, Howard. Just because you're in a contest doesn't mean we start cursing and dropping F.
That's all right. That's all right.
Actually, no, the 4
we got
was
Drew drinking beers.
Down to 3 to 2 hours.
Yeah, you're all right there.
So, all right. Well, I mean, so here's what I got, Drew. It wasn't the worst result for me. It's weird. I thought the 4 was going to lead in battle, guys. It didn't really set up the way I wanted. The 8, clearly. I also dutched some doubles, actually, with the 4 also. So the double thing didn't work out. I do have I have a $6 try. But it's not going to pay a lot. So
who ran third? Was it the 4 who held on?
Yeah,
for
it was
third?
the 4.
Oh, that's garbage. Yeah, that's garbage.
It ended up being the top 3 chalks from 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to get 500 back. I'm going to get something back. What Well, if I went all in on the win end, Drew, it wouldn't have worked out for me, and if I did on the doubles, it wouldn't have worked out. So in this case, a try at least gets me some money. The 1 looks like got 4th, and I also had the 10. It's too bad. I had some prices there; they just didn't come in. So, Drew, it's one of those situations where it's not a killer for me. I mean, I'm still very much alive in the contest. Just didn't quite work out overall.
Yeah, but I still would respectfully disagree that if you have 3 bullets right now,
yeah,
and you fired one appropriately on a good priced 7-1. Is that what the odds were that went off?
The 5? No, you got bet down to like 4-1 or some ridiculous number.
So so if you hit with that bullet,
you got bet down to 5. It was 5-1. That's exactly the kind of horse I like in this kind of situation.
But if you sink all 500 in, what happens when that horse wins? Right, you're sitting here gonna go play minimums for the rest of the night,
exactly,
and you're having a BCBC seat. Whereas if you dilute that value down to 300 or 400, now you're thinking, gosh dang it, why didn't I put all this money here? Because now I'm sitting on this and this and this and this. And now I got all these permutations I have to work through.
Yeah. I will say the 8-5 exacta was 24 for $1. So maybe this try won't be as bad as I think. It's a big field. I don't know. I've got it for 6. Maybe I'll get, 300 or 400 back here. Drew, we really want to thank you for coming on the show. Any final thoughts? Don't leave the show, everyone, because Pete, Paul, and I are going to talk about our pick 5. But Drew, we'll let you go. Thanks for being on this long. Any final thoughts about Woodbine on Saturday?
No. Check into In the Money podcast. We're going to have all sorts of great coverage over at the website, InTheMoneyMedia.com. And then for those interested, InTheMoneyPodcast.com. I'm sorry. It's getting late at night. I've had a very early morning for me.
Sorry.
And so, no, but anytime we want to talk live cash contests, would love to, and would love to talk Woodbine anytime with you three. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Drew. Great job.
Thanks for coming on. Drew, oh, wow. Guys,
$41, right?
The dollar try paid 82.
Yeah, it was
and I've got it for
50.
So actually, that paid much better than I thought. So I almost got my money back. So Drew, really, I mean, I didn't move up in the leaderboard, but I used the mandatory, and I still have plenty of bullets. It's actually didn't end up being that bad a result for me, Ashley. So, Drew, you're going to be at Keeneland, I believe, for the Breeders' Cup, right?
Yes. Yeah, we'll be floating around.
We'll be talking. Drew Coatney, thanks a lot for coming on, and good luck at Woodbine this weekend, sir. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks, Drew.
All right, bye-bye, Drew.
Thanks, Drew. Take care.
All right, guys, let's get into and we're gonna end the show, guys, about 7 or 8 minutes here. Real quick, let's go to Paul first. Paul, you gave us $1 pick 5, which I love. Right on the spot, $50. You're going 1 with 5-9 with 5. You're singling the 2 Applebee's with 1-3-5-6-8 with 1-2-5-6-8. Spreading at the end, singling the Applebee's, and pressing up times 5 with the 20-cent base bet. I love it. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, again, if they win, you're not going to get paid with a 20-cent ticket. So, this is the type of ticket where if you can get a price in the last 2 legs, even for 20 cents, maybe it can pay, $200 or $300. You got a 5 times, it's not going to, I'm not going to retire, but, again, they're going to be bet. I don't think either field is particularly difficult, to be really. I don't think it's the strongest Woodbine Mile. There's no Wise Dans floating around here. I think Godolphin. I think Appleby ships with a purpose. He's got Buick riding 2 on Saturday at Woodbine, and they have Frankie Dettori riding at Aqueduct on Sunday. It might be Saturday too, by the way. I mean, it could be. Dettori is riding one of their horses. It's the third leg of that turf sequence that the Saratoga Derby horse. You know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't remember the name. Sorry.
I only wrote about him 2 weeks ago, so why would I remember his name? Holy Toledo! It was he won the Derby on Saturday, and he won the Oaks on Sunday. This is the horse that won the Derby.
Yeah.
And just because I don't want to go senile, I'm going to tell you.
Oh, what happened to the Charger? Bad play for
No,
for Chargers.
It was an interception, but they threw a flag, so I'm assuming they're going to call interference.
We got NFL, we got contests, we got We got a lot of stuff going on.
We're up
Paul's looking that
17-7,
up.
so we're up 17-7. That's all you need to worry about.
Paul, do you want to
Nation's Pride. Nation's Pride.
Nation's Pride. Yeah.
There you go.
Nation's Pride is in at Aqueduct, I think on Saturday or Sunday. But the Tory is coming over to ride that horse. So hats off to the Godolphin people not sending Ryan Moore over like Aidan O'Brien continues to do. So anyway, I think I agree with Drew. I went too deep in the race, but I think it's either Super Sensational or Lady Spitespear.
Okay. For people wondering about the BCBC contest, I went down like 2 spots. I almost got my money back, which is not really what I need, but it's not horrendous. 11th place right now is all the way up to 4,700. This contest is much more difficult than last year. Matt Miller's only in 7th. He was going to only play minimums. He might have to fire. In fact, I know he's not watching us, but I know he's paying attention. Matt Miller's in 7th at 55, and 11th is 47. He might need to fire a little bigger bull than he thought.
Yeah,
we'll
four races. Go, right?
I'm fine. I'm going for it, guys. So I'm going to be making a big wager soon. All right. Anything else about your pick 5 here, Paul? We're going to wrap this up.
No, I'm good. All
right, Pete, your pick 5 real quick. 1-3-5-6 with 7-9 with 2-3-5 with 1-3-5-8 with 7-10. It's 38-40.
Yeah, mostly I'm going to go the other way from what the Drew and Paul were talking about. Where I think I could see the Applebees all winning, and I could also see both of them even losing. So I'm going to spread a little bit in each of the races, and then I'm actually going to go short in the last one because I kind of really like that 7, but I like the 10 horse as well. So I wanted to put that one in, but that was sort of the 7 in the last one I think was my strongest opinion. And in that first leg, we're going to get that 5, Sammy Stone home at 20-1, right, Howard? So that's gonna kick our pick 5 off with a bomber. So that's what I'm hoping. And then I'm hoping if we could beat Mysterious Night in that first leg, and if we can beat Modern Games, then I think we're on to something.
Yeah, I think we're probably getting more like 15-1 on. I can't believe that horse could be that.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter as long as we're beating.
Yep.
we're beating one of the Applebees. I think the ticket will pay.
I just don't think that Euro that it has to be that good in that particular spot. We'll see. My pick 5, ladies and gentlemen, is a $43.20, and it's for 40 cents. So, Paul, I sort of had the similar idea. This is a press-up ticket. I got to be honest, guys. I'm playing a small ticket on Saturday, and I'm going to try to press up and hit it a bunch of times just because I have strong opinions on some horses, and I just don't want to spread a lot in the sequence. My bet is 1-5-6 with 5-9 with 5 with 1-2-3 4-5-6 with 5-7-8. I might go deeper in the last race and maybe only go too deep in the first leg, or of course I'm going to play an ABC, but I'm a single Modern Games, guys. I know Ivor can win. I think Modern Games is the goods. I think he's really good. And we didn't talk about, guys, Appleby, we mentioned about the jockeys. Buick. He knows how to ride. He's aggressive, Paul, which I like. He puts his horses in good spots. He's not going to be 50 lengths back. I think this horse is super talented. I know you agree. We'll see what happens with Modern Games in that win, and you're in. Pete, I'll let you finish real quick. Pete, then Paul, final thoughts about Saturday. We got the Iroquois, and oh man, I can't believe I can't remember the girls' race at Churchill. There's 2 real nice races at Churchill, which are going to be part of our race day blog, by the way, on Saturday. Pete, I'll let you go first. Any comments or final thoughts about Saturday?
No, I think the only thing I'll say is I think this is a worthwhile sequence for everyone to play, especially with the 20-cent denomination. So you can, like you said, if you have some strong opinions, you could press it up, and you're not breaking the bank necessarily by doing it. And even if you want to play a couple backup tickets, playing backup tickets for 20 cents are a lot cheaper than playing backup tickets for 50 cents. I think it's a great sequence. We have some decent sized fields. And again, we're ending with a race that can go a bunch of different ways. So that always opens it up to possibilities for a nice payout.
Paul?
Yeah, you mentioned the Churchill race. So it's Damon's Mound, and it's at Echo Wonder, I think, who's actually the morning line favorite.
Echo again.
Echo again is actually, which is repetitious, by the way. Echo again is the morning line favorite at 9-5.
Yeah.
And,
wide post though, Paul. Wide post for Echo again.
Yeah, I'm just that's an asterisk, I believe. And great.
Yeah.
Steve is a tremendous horseman and very likable guy, but I'm all in on Michelle Level to have a horse who looks like he could go on to the Derby.
By the way, that pick 5 is an all stakes or so. The Churchill one is an all stakes pick 5, so that's a good one.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it starts at the 7, you got the Open Mind, the Locust Grove, the Iroquois. Well, I guess the Louisville Thoroughbred Society Stakes, and then the Pocahontas closes it out.
Oh, the Pocahontas. There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So those 5. So that's a nice sequence.
Yeah, it is a nice sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun sequence. There's winning your ins there. As I'm checking my phone because I'm going to be guys. I got to start fire. I got to
keep us posted, Howard. You got to.
I will.
Keep
so
us
everyone who's watching live,
well,
Pete and Paul, we've got to chat.
Yeah, you'll keep us posted. I'll be watching.
I'll keep you guys posted. Everyone else, you can go on Twitter, and I'll sort of keep everyone updated. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. This has been episode 178. Yep, of the HHH Racing Podcast. From my wonderful co-hosts Pete Visco and Paul Halloran. Good luck to everyone on Saturday, whether it be at Woodbine, Churchill, or wherever else. And we look forward to seeing everyone next Tuesday for another fun recap show with this gentleman right there as our host. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.